Hello guys, welcome to a new episode of Leubniz Lecture. Today I'm given an intro to JavaFX, and just to mention that once again, this lecture is part of the lecture I'm doing at the Higher Technical College in Kaindorf. So if you're attending that school or if you just want to learn more about JavaFX, then just follow all the episodes in the series. So we're going to start with an intro today. JavaFX is a library that offers us kind of an extension for Java, and it provides us with the possibility of creating user interfaces for our users. So basically what we did until now is that the user communicated with our programs via the console, and now we want to start using graphical user interfaces. Therefore, let's do the basic setup of our program. Therefore, let's switch to our IntelliJ. The first thing we need to do is we need to create a new project. And this is different that time because we have to go to JavaFX on the left-hand side here. Then we have to enter a name. So for me, it's JavaFX demo. And very important, we select Java here as a language, Maven as the build system. Make sure to use the correct group, which starts from the back, which means at.htl.Kaindorf in my case, the artifact ID, and then some version of the Java JDK. Then when you're done with that, we can click on next. We don't need any of these additional libraries here, so we just skip that and click the create button. So this takes some time, and now we have our new project. We're using a Maven build architecture here, which gives us some more files, which we didn't use up until now. And the first file is called the pom.xml file. So it's the one that's already opened up here. Just waiting until the loading is done because it's just downloading some plugins there. So now we are ready. So within the pom.xml file, our project dependencies are defined besides some other properties which are not important to us right now. But what we see in there is the whole JavaFX dependency. So the controls and the fxml support, this is what's needed so that we can work with JavaFX in here. Good. So let's take a look at the basic structure that we have. So everything starts in the source folder and the main folder, and then we have our Java folder, and then we have our resources folder. So we have two folder trees in there, file system trees, and we want to bring them in a good structure. So before explaining the structure to you, let's do the following. So first we need to create a new package here, which is called controller. And we also want to create another package which is called pojos. So pojos is short for plain old Java objects, and this is for all our model classes that we're using, and the controller package is for all controller classes. Additionally, what I want to do is I want to have our view part, which is the resources folder, to be renamed. So I want to rename this to be the main view. You have to confirm the refactoring down there. And then I want to rearrange my class structure. So the hello controller goes into the controller package and also is renamed to be view controller. And the hello application is also renamed to be application only. Okay, so this is the basic structure I want to follow. And first, what we do is we want to get rid of everything inside the controller. So we're just getting rid of that part. And then we're going to have a look at our application class here. So when it comes to the application class, some things are important to us. So we didn't talk about inheritance yet, so we're just ignoring what it says up here. But what we are going to talk about is the main method. So we have the main method in the application class, which means that this class is our main starting point of our whole application, of our whole Java program we are doing. By calling the launch method in the background, automatically this start method is called. And the cool thing about JavaFX is that it is managed like a theater. So if you think about a theater, you have a stage and everything is going on the stage. And then on that stage, we can have different scenes. And this is the same concept that JavaFX uses here. So first of all, we have to create our scene, which is done in here. And our scene depends on some fxml loader, which refers to our main view.fxml file, which is where our whole design of the scene is defined. This scene is loaded, then we set a title for this scene, and then we tell the stage to show this scene. So this is done with these two lines here. So this is the most important things you need to know up to now about this application class. And I would advise you to get rid of these values here for the width and the height of the window, because I'm always a friend that this is done in the designer only. So let's get rid of them. And now what we want to do is we want to create a very simple example, a very simple program which asks the user for a username. And if we click on some button, we want the user to be greeted by our program. So we name this scene or this stage to be the greeting. This is what we start with here right now. Good. So we are going to go back to our main view.fxml. And in here, what we want to do is we want to create our whole design. So this is what our design looks like. This is just the standard design, which is entered as soon as we create our project here. And we can see that we had a label in there. We had a button in there with the text hello, some action event. So some things we don't know about yet, but we will very soon come to that. The one way of editing this design is to basically just do it inside this fxml file, which somehow makes sense, but can also be very confusing at the beginning. So if you're not familiar with all the different things, it's just getting very confusing. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a tool which is called Scene Builder. It's from Oracle JavaFX Scene Builder, and you can just download the executable for any of your operating systems there, install it, and when you're done with that, we can go to our fxml file, and on the very bottom it says open in Scene Builder. The first time you're doing this, it's asking you to select the Scene Builder exe so that it knows when to or where to open it. As soon as we do this, our design is opened in Scene Builder. So this, what we see in here, is represented in our fxml file. For me, we start by just getting rid of everything in here because we want to create a new design. And what's very important, whenever switching between IntelliJ and Scene Builder, make sure to always save and close the Scene Builder before you start editing or doing something in IntelliJ. I know that it's also working the other way around, but from a practical point of view, I very often experienced that we had errors when both of the programs were open at the same time. So I always stick to this, my personal convention somehow. Everything starts in here by using a container. So on the top left-hand side, we have the containers. You might have to go down with this document a little bit so to see something. And in here, we have all the different containers to use. And for today, the most important ones are the H box and the V box. So it's the horizontal box and it's the vertical box. And the vertical box is used to align things under each other, and the horizontal box to align items beside each other. So as we want to have our label with the input text on the first row, then a button and then a label, we're going to use the V box as the first element. So we're just grabbing it and putting it in here. And now we can start filling it from the top. So at the very top, what we want to have is a label and a text field beside each other. So to achieve something next to each other, we have to use the H box. So we're just giving the H box, sorry, in there. And what we see is that the hierarchy is shown down there. So we see with the V box as our root element, and in there nested we have our H box. So inside our H box, we have to put something, and this can be found in the controls, because what we want to have is a label on the left side, and then a text field on the right hand side. So we're having a text field here, and then we're just entering the text field. So this is how that works. Then additionally, under the H box, we want to have a button. So we're just going to search for the button here. We take the button and just drop it in there. Make sure that it's not inside the H box, but under the H box. And then once again, a label, because we want to enter some text. Now it comes to the design of all these things, because currently this looks very ugly. So we want to somehow arrange this. Let's talk about our H box first. So in our H box on the right hand side, we see that we can have the alignment. And if we set the alignment to center, which means aligns all the items just to the center. We can also say center left, for example, which means everything is centered, but on the left side of the element. So this is what it looks like, and I think this is what I want to achieve right now. So I click on the label, so make sure that the label is selected, because I want to set the name here. And what I want to enter is first name. So I'm just writing first name colon, which renames just the content of this label. Additionally, in our text box, I don't want to add any text right now, but I want to enter a prompt text, which means this text is visible as long as the user is not entering any text, but it's not a real text in the text view. And I'm just naming it first name as well. So you see that's somehow great, because it's not a real text, it's just some kind of hint. Next thing I want to do is first name and the label and the text box. So I want to have some kind of difference or some distance in between there. And this is where the CSS syntax comes in. So you can do the whole design using CSS. We're currently just doing it with scene builder in here, which is some kind of inline CSS right away. So what we do is we go to layout, and then we see that we can set a margin and a padding in here. So I want to set a margin on the right hand side of 20. Okay, that's too much. Let's set it to 10. So we have some kind of distance between the label and the element item itself, so the text field. Good. So next thing that we observe is that we have a lot of space around these elements, and this is due to the fact that if we select the H box and we go to layout, we see that we have a preferred width and a preferred height. So if you get rid of this and select the computed size instead, you see that now the H box is just the size of the elements in there, and this is usually what I prefer, because I think that just makes much more sense. Okay, now let's head back to our V-Box, because I want the button and the label to be centered. So I just go to the properties, I select center in here. So everything is centered right now. And what I can do also for the V-Box, I can just go to the layout settings here and use the computed size. And you see what happens. So it's just using exactly the size that I now want to have. If you're not happy with this design, you can just change it however you want. What I always like to do is I like to use a padding here all around. So a padding all around of 20, because this makes it look and feel a little bit better. Just heading back to the label, we can, in the properties section, also define a different font size here, a font style, a font family, whatever. So maybe I want this to be bold. So let's set it to bold. And maybe I want this to be some kind of red. So I can just also change this. So this is true for all of the values that we have. When it comes to the button, we have to enter a text, and this text is submit. So we're setting it to submit there. Maybe I also try to make it bold. Let's see if this is working there. Or for some reason it's not doing what I want. So bold. Okay. So it's not taking anything. Okay, let's see. No. Okay, maybe we'll talk about that in a minute, because that's an important thing to mention afterwards. So next thing we want to do is we want to get a distance between the button, the label, and the button and the H box that we have above there. So we just go to the layout option, and in this layout option, we're going to set a margin. So we're going to set a margin at the bottom of 20, and we're going to set a margin at the top of 20. So we're getting them a little bit more space between the elements. So, and in the label, so this label, basically we don't know what to enter here, but I will just say, if I enter my name, I want this to be hello Johannes, and then an exclamation mark at the end. So this is some kind of demo text that we have in there. I think that's very important, because whenever designing something, it makes a lot of sense to see how the appearance of something is. So I always like to enter sample text in here and erase this as soon as the application starts. So this makes designing everything much easier. Okay, so I think we're now done with our design. There is one important thing. Let's just save everything. Let's close the scene builder. And now if we head back to our fxml file, we see a lot of code that we just produced in here. But this is just the structure that we just saw. So we have our VBox. In our VBox, we have our HBox. In the HBox, we have a label. We have a text field. And then under the HBox, we have some button. We have a label. And that's it. Okay. So that's very important. So you can also check or maybe change things in here. Let's first of all try to run the application, and let's see if everything works as we expect it to. So let's build the application and see what the result is. And there it is. So our result is exactly what we defined. So it says greeting here for the title. It says the first name, our text field. It says the submit button, and it says hello Johannes. If I click on the submit button, nothing happens, but what you see is our prompt text in there. And what you observe is as soon as I click in there, the prompt text is gone. Okay, so this is how it works. Good. So we can close the application. It looks fine. But what we still need to do is we need to somehow make this button clickable, because we want that something happens if we click on the button. And this is why we have our view controller. And so that we can connect our view with our view controller, so our fxml file with the Java class, we have to set some things. So first of all, we have to define our controller, and this is done in the root element where we say fx controller. And then we have to enter the whole path to our controller. So make sure to use your path that you defined in here to access your controller. But that's not everything. We also need to set some IDs for all the elements that we want to access later. And we go back to Scene Builder because it's a little bit easier to do it in there. So we need to enter or to access our text field. So let's select our text field, and on the right hand side we go to code, and the very first element here says fx :id. So this is what we want to set, and we always have a prefix there and then some name in a camel case style. So we start with tf for text field and then first name. This is the first element that we want to set here. Then we also want to access our button. So for button, it's BT, and then we say submit. And then we have our label. Label, it's LB for output. Okay. So if you don't remember, or if you cannot learn these things by heart right now, don't be worried. You have this demo program to always go back and take a look at what we just did. So we're going to save everything, head back, and now what we see is that these IDs just appeared in here. okay? And these IDs can be used now to connect them with our controller. So we head over to our controller, and in our controller, we need to create instance variables representing the controls we have in our view, in our fxml file. So we first start with our button. So we have our button, and then it's the, just forget to import it, and then it's the BT submit. And it's very important here, we need to annotate this with the fxml annotation, so we can create, so that Java can create a connection between the controller and the view. And for you as a control sign, it's very important to have this sign here at the top, at the front of the instance variable, because if you mistype the name, this item will be gone. So it's very important that the name of the instance variable is the same as the ID for the element that you set there. So if I say BT submit here, it also has to be BT submit there. Okay. So what we want to do first now is we want to click the button and then see if that works. And therefore we need to create some kind of action for our button here. So what we do is we say on action, which is an attribute that we can use. Then we put the hash and then the name of some method, and all these methods that do something on action, on click, on whatever are starting or have the prefix on. So we have on, and then we just call it on submit. For sure, this is red. There is an error because this doesn't exist. But if we just press Alt Control, we can create the method in our controller, and now we see there is our button. And what we try to do now is we want just to print something to the console like button clicked. Very important, in console applications, we're using the system out print line or the console to communicate with the user. Right now, as soon as we start using GUIs or graphical user interfaces, we're using the console for debugging only, so we can use this really as a good debugging tool. If we run our application right now, we should have the possibility to click on the button and then something should appear down there. So there's our field. If I click the submit button, it tells us button clicked down there. Perfect. So this is exactly what we wanted to achieve. Looks pretty good. Okay. So now what we want to do is we want to enter something in there, and then it should say hello Johannes. Okay, for sure. This is already there, but we will handle that later. So in that method, we somehow want to grab the text from the text field and write it to the label. So first thing we need to do is we need to bring the text field and the label into this class. This is done by creating the text field, which is tf first name, and by using the label, which is lb output. And don't forget about the fxml annotation there. And you can check if everything is correct if you have these signs at the front of your instance variable. So everything looks to be correct. Looks to be fine. So first of all, I want to output the text in our label. So to see if this works, so we just take our instance variable and we say get text. Very, very easy method. So basically what that you do is as soon as I click the button, we want to see button clicked and the text written in our text field. So if I'm writing Oliver in there, I click the submit button down there, we see it's button clicked and it's Oliver. So this is exactly what we wanted to achieve right now. So button clicked and Oliver. Good. So if this is working, we can now also take this very easily and write this into some variable that we define, some local variable. We can just say first name dot get text, which returns the text of our element here, of our text field, of our element. Good. So what do we want to do? We want to write this somewhere. So we want, maybe let's just try to do this in the output. So usually what we do is string.format, and we're just saying hello, the name and the exclamation mark. And then we say first name here. Makes sense. So we're using the format string here with the %s. And if we run this, and if I'm going to say Oliver here, I click the submit button, it gives me hello Oliver down there. So this is exactly what I expect the application to do. Perfect. So the only thing that's missing is to get exactly this thing here into our label. And also for that, we have a very easy method because it's just set text. I'm just pasting the string.format in there. So let's see if that works. And if we just going to run this, we see Oliver, submit, hello Oliver. If it's Thomas, it says hello Thomas. And if it's Johannes again, it says hello Johannes. So that's working in a very good way. The only thing that's not good right now is that we should also get rid of this hello Johannes text down there. So that should not be there at the beginning because we entered no name. So why should there be a greeting already? So to do this, we should get rid of this name before the user sees the user interface or just as soon as the application started. And there is a method that runs as soon as this is the case. So and this method is called initialize. And whatever we do in this initialize method is done as soon as the application is started. So we can just set the output to be nothing. So it's an empty string and the initialize, so at startup. And if we do this and we run our application, we see that now we don't have the label down there. So this is gone. And as soon as I start with something, it's hello John, it's hello Oliver, it's hello Nicole, and so on. So this is basically how it works. Okay, guys, so this is the intro to JavaFX. It's a very simple thing. You now know how to do this. And if you want to practice this further, you can just start by entering another field here, for example, for the age. So you want to say, hello, you are Nicole and you are, I don't know, years old, okay? So maybe you just try to extend this application because you have a good basis now and you try out different things within that context that we provided together right now. Before we are going to end this episode, I just want to go through the structure once again, okay? So the main entry point is our application class where the main method is included. That's this method here, which calls the launch method and implicitly the start method then afterwards. We can set the title of our stage here, and on a stage we can have different scenes. So just remember and think of the theater setting that's used by JavaFX in there. Everything that we see in a scene is defined in fxml class, which is down here. And in this fxml class, we have our whole design only. And make sure or remember to also have elements in there which you fill later on. But for a designing purpose, it makes sense to have them filled with some demo text or some sample text in here. To access elements from our view, we have our controller. So to connect our controller with the views with the fxml file, we have to add the attribute fxController with the whole path to our element, to our controller class. And additionally, we have to have fx IDs for all the elements that we want to access later on. Please make sure to stick to the naming conventions that we are defining there. Finally, in our controller class, in our view controller class, we have different things in there. We see that we have a button. Here. We have the first name and the output, the label. So these are all the controls from our fxml file. And we bring them into there if we do two things. So we need to have the fxml annotation with the @ symbol at the beginning. And we need to name them in the exact same way as the ID is in our fxml file. So if this is not the case, then you won't have this orange symbol at the start, at the beginning here of the instance variable. So this is always a good check for you to see if you included the control correctly. Okay, guys, so this is it for for the JavaFX intro, for the first demo that we did together. In the next video, you will talk about another layout structure, which is the grid layout. And you will also find different episodes according to JavaFX on my channel in the following weeks. So guys, if you liked if you like my channel, if you like my lecture, then please subscribe, give me a like. If you have any comments, just leave a comment there. Tell me what I should do differently or what can be changed. And I'm very happy to see you again. Have a nice day. Bye.